There we go. I'll get this right by the end. So today we're going to be talking about same-day, precise, sustainable, and cost-effective delivery. That is me on the left. My name is Seb O'Keefe. I'm the eVP of Growth of Stuart. I've been here for 3 months, prior to which I was at Amazon for 8 years, working for the last 3 in Amazon shipping. At Stuart, I look after the growth function, which is responsible for growth and sustainability as well. Super relevant topics. A very interesting time to think about growth. I was thinking yesterday, if I began this job a year ago, I think my job would have been a lot easier. But that being said, I think we're at a super interesting stage where we're in a bit of a COVID hangover. A lot of inventory in stores. We have a very fussy customer who's got higher and higher standards, and everything's kind of coming together. So I think we're at an interesting crossroads of where growth will come from in the future. And I think we'll talk to you about that today.
And I'm Marcus. I'm the Director of Fulfilment and Retail Logistics at Stuart. Prior to being at Stuart, I was on the retail side of supply chain, working with businesses like Farfetch, and also for 15 years at John Lewis, designing some of their supply chain and automation. I'm looking forward to talking to you today.
Cool. I don't want to click too much. So by the way, there are a lot of animations in here because when we timed ourselves, we were very fast. So we're trying to slow it down a little bit.
It's our instant delivery culture.
Yeah. So just a quick intro to Stuart. So our mission is logistics for a sustainable world. We're very much focused on how we can provide an urban last mile sustainably. From a growth perspective, we began in 2015. We've grown continuously at 3x per year since 2016, taking revenues last year to over $500 million, which is pretty crazy. From a company size perspective, we're now at 750 employees, a third of which are tech, with 400 more employees being added this year, of which 50% are tech. So we very much consider ourselves a tech-led organization. Everything we do is about agile response, so we're investing heavily continuously into our tech. From a footprint perspective, we're a European company. We operate across 6 countries. We've launched 3 new countries in the last year or so, launching Poland, Portugal, and Italy. We're very intentional in terms of where we launch. Our focus is on identifying countries and cities where we can scale density quickly. That's important for us from a sustainability element as well, because we can put more parcels and cover less distance. And it also is important because we focus on speed and precision, and those are the sort of areas that we can add the most value. So just to pause, this says where we are going. It's meant to be more, what are we going to talk about today? So I'm going to give you a bit of an intro to Stuart as a business model. I'm not sure how many of you guys actually know about Stuart. Then we're going to talk about the next generation of e-commerce, what we call L-commerce, and thinking about how e-commerce is going to move to an urban battlefield, and the implications of that, and then how we can support. And then I'm going to hand over to Marcus, who's going to do a bunch of really interesting case studies to try bring it to life before ending off. If you guys have any questions as we go through this, raise your hand, and I'll let Marcus answer them. And I'll get this clicker right. Okay, so just a quick intro to the business model. Stuart is a B2B enabler of e-commerce or last mile. We focus on same-day, precise, and sustainable delivery. Very simply, the way we do that is that we have an API or a dashboard that connects a fleet of 40,000 plus couriers to shops, urban hubs, micro hubs, dark stores, etc., linking locally held inventory to the final customer. Through all of this, from a customer perspective, we provide full end-to-end and real-time tracking, but also from an end consumer perspective, we can provide the same, along with photo on delivery, signature on delivery, geocode, and then we can do a bunch of other stuff around Challenge 25, etc. That helps us work with a wide range of clients. And I think at our strength and in our ability to actually build density is the fact that we're able to be agnostic in terms of who we work with. So we can work across many different client types, building density in pretty fragmented places of density. And a couple numbers in terms of what that means from a partnerships perspective. So we have a 91% plus client retention rate, which is pretty good. We have one of the highest end customer NPSs out there, and a 98% on-time delivery rate. So why is it relevant? And tell me if I'm going too fast. Am I? Yeah. So why is it relevant, right? So as I mentioned before, we started in a very basic first generation of commerce with big superstores held outside cities. When petrol was very cheap, you could get in the car and go drive and collect it. We've moved into now the second generation of e-commerce, which has involved mega fulfillment centers, hub and spoke models, moving stock very efficiently from point A to point B and delivering in large trucks with fairly agile but not agile planning. I think we've seen a lot of movement into next day, 2 day, pushing it later and later. But actually what we see, if you want to break into the remaining 80% of offline, you're not going to do that through your next day or premium services. You need to find ways to focus on convenience differently. And focusing on convenience means two things, right? So one is speed and precision, and the other is getting more stuff closer to customers. And in terms of getting the more stuff closer to customers, there are two elements to that, right? So what you'll see is local stores that don't have stuff online will start putting it online. And the second thing you'll see, and actually this was really interesting in the discussions I had yesterday, is there's going to be a lot more ship from store happening. Very interesting to hear about that. And not only a lot more ship from store, those who don't have ship from store capabilities will be either using micro hubs or what we call peri-urban hubs to move the stock closer and then use local fulfillment. If you think about the implications on that on the transport type that people are using, it's not going to be trucks anymore, right? You're going to have a customer that is trained to be erratic by nature, who doesn't plan, who will do many small orders, infrequently. So you have a lot of small journeys. So the way that you fulfill those orders becomes around how do you better use different transport types, and namely 2- and 3-wheeled vehicles to cater that, which fits into sustainability, the other really important thing that's going to happen. Three elements in an urban battlefield. We know that cities are only going to become more restrictive in terms of allowing any sort of diesel to come in there. Customers are demanding sustainability as well, and we've seen that a lot in terms of preferences. And the last one is, I've been looking at the petrol price. I mean, it is high. It's been staying high, and it's just very expensive to even drive locally. So key takeaway from this is, if you want to break into the remaining 80% of offline commerce, it's going to be about convenience. And I'm not saying next day will not remain big and grow. I'm just saying that there's a great opportunity within same day and precise to get there. But whoops. Oh, well, I've lost the dramatic effect. Anyway, so we've told customers not to pay. And I think, COVID's really worsened this as well. So one, customers are generally not willing to pay for same day. So this research that we did with McKinsey shows that less than 15% of customers are willing to spend more than €1 on a same day above next day. But from a sustainability perspective, although we know customers are actually going to go shop where they can get a sustainable option, they're also not willing to pay for it. And I think, the added complication of all of this is with, as I mentioned, the COVID hangover, retailers have a lot more stock, more pressured balance sheets, more pressured P&Ls. Logistics companies don't have the margin there anymore. So whereas in the past, I think we could have squeezed on retail, squeezed on logistics to make this work, there doesn't seem to be that ability to do that anymore.
No, and I think to add to the perfect storm, consumer loyalty to brands and retailers changed dramatically during pandemic, right? I can speak for myself when I suddenly became driven by, can I get the thing that's going to keep me occupied tomorrow morning, first thing, I don't care where it comes from. And that was a big change. And I think that showed for me dramatically as a logistician of 20 years, convenience is where we're going to compete, and choice is where we're going to compete in the future. And I think this is what we're positioning. Yeah,
no, absolutely. So, I mean, just key takeaway here then is basically, unless we're able to make same day cost effective, I guess, Holy Grail, it's going to remain niche, right? It will remain niche. So we need to find ways to do that. So how do we deliver speed, precision, and sustainability cost effectively? Sorry, that wasn't easy to say. First thing is very much up to the retailers and those who are actually holding the stock. I think this isn't really new, this concept of moving stock closer, but having centrally held warehouses of stock and expecting to be able to move them really quickly to the end customer is expensive, and it's not precise. It's really not precise. If you look at the same day models that have come out there, they're expensive, and they're getting there 70-80% of the time on time. So what does that mean? So one, as I mentioned before, stores, greater growth of ship from store. Interesting discussions, though, yesterday on how then do you actually start training your employees in the stores to actually manage ship from store orders. And then I was thinking about Deliveroo and all the restaurants that now suddenly have to deal with all the Deliveroo orders that are coming in there. I went to a Subway in Paris. The place was empty, but the poor guy was like pulling his hair out with online orders. Times change quickly, so I definitely see this as something that will be addressed very quickly. I think there will also be an element of software that's going to come in terms of warehouse management or inventory management. From a city hub's perspective as well, there is also a huge opportunity to move stock closer, to use these city hubs as cross docks, or actually move into micro fulfillment as well. That's not our strength, by the way. The challenge then also comes in building density in a different way, right? So I think, as I said before, building density in the past used to be very much about how do you fill a truck up and take it from A to B efficiently. When you have erratic customers focused on convenience in an urban environment, you need to focus on maximizing the number of points that you're going to pick up and drop off from in one route. And this ties closely to the tech element of it. To actually manage that, you need to develop real-time tools that optimize all of the time.
And as Seb said, I think what we're talking about here isn't the death of a big centralized automated DC that retailers have spent hundreds of millions on. It's about a specific play that's about enabling same day. And I think there are two plays from a commercial retail perspective here. It's making more use of inventory, reducing obsolescence, touching and moving stock once, and actually using large store footprints in big urban centres where footfall has reduced, but leases are long and enduring, as brand showrooms and forward stock locations to enable fast fulfillment. So it's a bit of a disruption in that space.
Exactly. So there, as I said on the right, that's really where we come in. Although we've been born out of point-to-points, we're able to build density very quickly and work across different verticals. And also we've built the tools to actually help optimize the demand. Double click into that a little bit. So multi-verticals, we work across many different types of customers. Quick commerce, I think, is a very interesting one that we put in there. I think sometimes we get asked, who do we compete with and how do we think about that? I think quick commerce could be an area that we could try to compete directly with. But actually what we do is we provide service directly to the Q-commerce players because we've been able to scale a business that's gone from 10,000 orders a week to 5 million a week and consistently hit 20 minutes end to end consistently, right? So that makes us really attractive from a quick commerce perspective, all the way to electronics as well. So on the other end of the spectrum, we work with the likes of Apple with a dedicated fleet to actually make sure that we deliver a high value service focused on, and actually it's the point-to-point elements of it that they like, right? Because it's not going through.
Few touches, highly secure, super traceable, fast.
So many different verticals, and once again, working across them gives us the density in urban areas to basically hit the lower costs. Oh well. Okay, there's everything together. From a model perspective, we work across instant, same-day scheduled, and next-day scheduled. From an instant perspective, as I mentioned before, we've scaled the business focus on a very fast point-to-point business, but we can also do a 2-hour instant delivery. Why is that interesting? We can increase the radius that we can hit with a point-to-point delivery, but we can also do pooling and batching to lower the costs in real time. So it's a more cost-effective but slower way to do it. From a same-day and next-day perspective, we can either do from store scheduled or through our hub scheduled, or from national distribution centers into our hub and then scheduled through urban centers. We have a diverse fleet that actually matches the right type of demand, and once again, technology. We have the real-time technology to help support that. So I won't go too deep into the tech side of things, but a couple of interesting things. So, oh, sorry.
My mic is on, yeah, sorry.
Okay, and please tell me if I'm going too fast. From a tech perspective, I think one thing that's really interesting about Stuart and the fact that we actually were born out of this need for fast, rapid agility, it means that we've built a tech function focused on continuous improvement, continuous planning. And the interesting thing is, whereas a traditional carrier will replan every 30 to 60 minutes, we replan every 30 seconds. And what that means, is that we can batch in real time, once again lowering the cost to you guys, but also manage supply and demand in real time through continuous planning. And actually what we've been able to do is then apply that technology to the way that we think about slot management as well. So we use our ability to constantly refresh where we see demand and supply to allocate slots either for the next day or the same day in a dynamic fashion. Last slide from me, and then I'll hand over to Marcus. I couldn't say, go through this without speaking about sustainability. And I think sustainability too often is thought about just about how many green cars or vehicles you have. I think it's much more than that. So while we do have a commitment to be 100% green by 2023, we actively work with the retailers and partners we have to provide carbon reporting on the impact that we're having on their carbon tracing. Everything for us is about CO2 reduction. Like, so basically we've got two inputs to the output. Like, one is more green vehicles, the other is minimizing distance traveled per parcel to reduce CO2. So everything we do is about density. We're not a same-day player that's going to take one parcel from London to Edinburgh. Even if we can make money, that's not how we operate.
And a long bike ride.
And yes. And the final point is that we're also a sustainable enabler. By being a white label plug-in solution, we work directly as being a neutral delivery player in the chain, not a competitor. We pass on the savings by aggregating the urban density. And most importantly, for retailers directly, we don't get in the way of any sort of customer information. That's not interesting for us. That's it from me.
You poor people, unfortunately, now have to deal with me for what's probably a much shorter time than I've planned. But I'm just going to recap on a couple of things that Seb said. You know, in the last 10 years, retail's been changing and moving more towards speed and convenience. The pandemic, for me, shook up the loyalty element. And in shaking up loyalty and driving consumers deeper into a need for convenience and speed, we have to, in my view, adjust our perspective on owning the end-to-end customer journey from store to fulfillment. And Stuart, as Seb has said, as a white label agent, are absolutely open to collaboration. And I think collaborating and breaking up legs of transport journeys, aggregating comms and offering a bigger suite of more malleable, efficient solutions to consumers is one way that we can keep some loyalty with retailers and drive increased sales. And I'm just going to try and get the clicker working.
It's to be quite aggressive.
We have to be aggressive.
Yeah.
There we go, some aggression. So I'm just going to click into this so I don't get stressed about it. But essentially, so where is Stuart working at the moment? We provide instant delivery services within small radii of individual stores, purely on bike and walking. And that's interesting when you think about quick commerce and grocery and store fulfillment that has other applications. We're also in same-day scheduled, and same-day scheduled is an exciting space for us. I'll use the example of London M25 right now, where I'm aggregating retailers' deliveries for inner London M25 evening 1 hour slot delivery directly from Midlands automated DCs with super late injections, so parcels being injected as late as 4 p.m. into our operating centres. And then thinking about next day scheduled, and this is a bit of a play on where we get to aggregation and sharing. You know, if we're able, with what I'll come on to, some of the unique aspects of Stuart and where we can play in this space, using those tools, through collaboration, we're able to consider how we disrupt the first mile of parcel journeys, giving a greater access to retailers to delivery services and allowing services like Stuart and our competitors and our colleagues in the market to inject international services. And for those services to appear from a communicative perspective to be one single retail transaction with a single set of comms and a single set of controls. I'm really glad that's not fire alarm, because that would have been really inconvenient. You do have to be really aggressive with it, don't you? So what is the difference of Stuart adding value? Well, firstly, Seb has mentioned earlier, but one of the things we're hugely proud of is born out of grocery and fast food. We've built a fleet of 40,000 geolocalised couriers. They're in over 160 cities, and they're available to provide less than 20-minute services. So when we think about an opportunity to lower cost in a first mile, provide a later proposition cut-off, inject a parcel at a later time, that can become super interesting. When we think about dynamic tech platforms, and clearly Seb and I are an authority on tech, and if anybody wants to speak to us in detail about code afterwards, catch Seb at a coffee machine. Fascinating. Don't talk to me about it. But when we start to look at then the network coverage of that, and 160 cities right now is interesting. We don't profess to be disrupting the market in the rural wilderness of in-between farms saturated by 50 Ks, but in urban dense centres like Amsterdam, like Milano, like London, where there's a high boutique presence, there's a lot of retail estate, there's a limitation in the ability to move vehicles around, and there are sustainability and environmental concerns. This kind of disruption and aggregation is interesting. And we're going to walk you through now, hyper fast, is a couple of I'm not. I'm going to do a slide that I've forgotten about first. I'm going to talk you a little bit through about what our experience is for clients and consumers. And this is, again, disrupting with tech. Coming out of a retail background and working with a number of different models across logistics, one of the challenges for aggregating from stores has been, what's the collection experience like for a retailer? What visibility or control do they have over that? If we use a point-to-point play in retail, does that mean I have a different courier every 10 minutes collecting through the day, and does it disrupt my retail pattern? No, we use technology to select the right vehicle types, to aggregate the collection demand, and to ensure that we're collecting those parcels and injecting them at a lower cost and as most efficiently as possible, using the right vehicle type and the right fleet. What we also then offer is the ability for those client businesses to amend that via our tech in real time, but also to give visibility to their consumer in real time about the progress they're making packing their order. And I don't know about you guys, but in pandemic I was particularly interested where my parcels were, and I think that's continued afterwards. And then we look at proof of delivery. Seb mentioned some of the consumer electronics cases that we've got. When you think about point-to-point and safe and secure, it's really important that we're able to offer those proof of delivery services such as geocode, and going beyond what I'm showing on the screen of signature and a picture of a door that could be anybody's door, right? A geocode location, a code for a courier, a PIN number associated with a delivery. We're able to facilitate Challenge 25. All of those things are becoming increasingly important to deliver convenience on the doorstep. And once you think about consumer and client service, do you want to be passed through 6 or 7 free phone numbers to speak to an agent or follow a call bot to get to your resolution? No, the Stuart app gives you the opportunity via our CS portals, if you're a client, to send messages to all of your relevant couriers, consumers and parcel agents in 2 clicks, but also to reschedule and really get involved in detailed planning information. Aggressive click. So looking at one of the cases, and I'll just reflect on here, I'm not going to go through it in detail, but in the UK we've been working with a supermarket brand called the Co-op. I need to refer to the case, but it's in over 180 locations that we're collecting from stores and providing delivery to consumer in less than 30 minutes. When we think again about the retail store footprint of urban centres and how the use of that has changed over the last 2 years especially, being able to use these kind of models to collect and either aggregate point-to-point or inject into different services is going to be key in both utilising inventory better and dropping unit cost of delivery. When we look ahead, the hub model that Seb has spoken about in our peri-urban centres, we operate our hub-to-home business, which is a set of small fulfilment centres across urban centres, which give us the opportunity with geolocalised couriers or other competitor fleets to inject into those operations to capture a bigger delivery radii, again 100% green with electric vehicles. This is great for subscription services. What we're able to do for Nespresso is collect specifically from their stores in agreed time and hold forward inventory in hubs so that it can then be called off at the consumer's convenience. So there isn't a set. You're going to receive your delivery on a Wednesday every month, and it's really frustrating when you've got a 6 a.m. flight from Luton and you're going to be stuck queuing for security, huh? So then we look at a Marinol case study, and again looking at collections of parcels Monday to Saturday and aggregating in different ways in one of the stores to then deliver to different centres. Again, if we think of the applications for this case, there are lots of different ways that we can see in-flight becoming really important to the convenient and keeping consumers trading with single retail entities. Uniglow, again, demonstrating some of our same-day prowess. What we're able to do from Germany is deliver same-day across some of the Paris boroughs, which I think, again, is kind of stretching that realm of possibility around same-day and using inventory differently. Fnac, and I know Seb is particularly fond of this case, as we enabled Fnac to be the first e-merchant delivering those editorial products faster than Amazon in France. And Seb, as an ex-Amazon guy, was a big fan of this case. And again, the success and the experience that we've added around that has been a real value driver for Fnac and has helped them with their premium propositions. When we look at Zara, again, we've been able to use our next day mission and to work differently with retailers and utilising, in this case, different vehicle types and being creative in terms of a fleet that we put on the road to solve problems with two main concerns: convenience for the client and the consumer, and economic benefit. Is it going to be more sustainable? Is it going to be more efficient? And is it going to be more effective? And this example here shows a carryall in Paris which is able to aggregate between 20 and 50 orders for Zara and then provide super efficient 2 to 1 hour delivery slots. John Lewis, a big proud one of mine as an ex-John Lewis guy. We're working with John Lewis in the UK to provide next day evening M25 delivery services within a specific 1 hour slot, and that is deliveries aggregated from their 8 distribution centres in the Midlands. And at the moment, even on a next day service, I'm injecting those parcels into our UK operations on D-0, 3 hours before the delivery window starts. That's allowed us to prove a concept for extended cut-off for John Lewis, and we're very much looking forward to moving forward to the first same-day proposition for John Lewis in the UK, powered from DC inventory, which will be launching between August and September with that retailer. So a quick launch forward to the future. So fast retail, what are we really talking about as this frontier? Consumers are continuing to demand speed and convenience is going to change. The sustainability of delivery solutions is absolutely essential. Instant, same day and scheduled all have important roles to play. So what are we going to do? We're going to help people to leverage store stock and our geolocalized couriers to extend cut-off times for consumers. I think proposition is king. How many of us have shopped on e-commerce and looked at the time that the proposition changes for delivery and realised it's too late to get a shirt for deliver? Then we're able to look at using hybrid fleets and how that helps us to expand our catchment area beyond just walking and cycle couriers whilst keeping emissions super low and costs super low. Cost efficiency delivered through a combination of our brilliant cutting edge tech, but also a diversified and extensive courier reach, and demonstrating great client experience. You know, collaboration, particularly in the communication space, aggregating, tracking messages, providing retailer branded messaging to the consumer in one single portal managed via the retailer, the client business, is going to be essential to the experience of shopping in the future, and it has to be 100% green. You know, gone are the days of tolerating burning fossil fuel, and I think that's the two reasons. You know, we all appreciate in main retail that there's a lot of emissions still in deep sea shipping, there's a lot of emissions in manufacturing. There is a PR angle to sustainability, but to Seb's point, urban centres can't stand the emissions for our own health and for the convenience of our cities and for our agendas. So what we need to do to help courier businesses avoid horrible taxations and penalties, to help retailers avoid emitting in zones they won't want to, and also to offer a better experience of the consumer at the end of the day, we need to take those fumes out of the environment, and we're trying to do that.
But just even to build on that, I read an interesting stat on urban last mile. Apparently, urban last mile contributes something like 21% of total global pollution. Like, so while you say deep sea, etc., is significant, like, let's not fool ourselves. There's a huge amount that we can do in the last mile as well.
And that's solved a lot by aggregation, right? Collaboration is key to ensuring there's less operations in these small nuclei and we're more efficient.
Ooh. Whoops.
Hey.
Yeah. Sorry, I'll summarize very quickly, but like just to make the same point, we're not professing to be the experts of everything. What we are good at is doing sustainable, fast, precise last mile. Getting into that 80% that's remaining offline is going to be very much dependent on us working together to attack that. If anyone has any questions, and I think we've got a couple of minutes left. Happy to take them. Otherwise, please, we're at B72. Yeah.
Thank you very much for your time.
Morning.
You grab those ones. I'll fix the ones I broke.
I have one question.
Okay.
From which company?
Yep.
Oh, is it me?
Ash. Yeah.
Just putting these headphones back together that I broke.
Right. Just one question. So, in a world where everybody's finances are getting more and more pinched, do you think that customer experience will become a tradable commodity in the last mile space? And How do you think Stuart can support that?
I think it's a really good question. The way I see Stuart being able to support that is customer experience is a commodity now. It's been a commodity for 5 years. I think the way that Stuart can disrupt in that space is with our white label and neutral partner approach. I think ensuring that more messaging is in and more flexibility is in the hands of the retailer, to be honest, rather than controlled by the courier. And I think that will become the new landscape in which retailers contract with service providers, is that experiential element of how much of the ecosystem can I own, how much of the journey for the consumer can I own, and how long can I hold the consumer on my retail website rather than interacting with a carrier portal or otherwise. And I think Stuart's technology positions us uniquely to both collaborate with carriers to do that, but also with retailers to provide those services.
Yeah, and just to build on that, I think there's a role of scalable tech in that, right? Like, so tracking can get better through tech for both end consumer and the customer. And I think there's a big role that can be played on just making customer experience great through that, even through CS, automating CS.
Yeah.
I think there are ways to effectively and efficiently scale your customer service without spending too much money.
Hi, good morning. My name is Rick. I have a question on more the infrastructural components that you maybe not control. So what is your experience with municipalities with regards to 2- and 3-wheeled transportation, and also creating spaces for city hubs? So basically, through the 6 cities or countries that you're active in, are you actively engaged with municipalities on changing city logistics, basically? Or is it something that you just take for what it is, or are you actively in touch with them?
You go first, and I can.
I'll try and answer as best I can. So certainly in London, where we are at the moment with our infrastructure around our urban hub in London, has been moving into an industrial area that is sensible. We've built out that building in a very sustainable way to add to the credentials of it. I think London's a good example, using the ultra-low emission zone as where that city authority have enforced a set of changes which have played to Stuart's strengths, because actually that's the area that we've chosen to operate in. I think it's a really interesting question as to what role we can play to influence that further in the future. Do you know what I think is most important, actually, is if we get regulation right in the space around environmental controls, right, and if we get development regulation right, the natural move of courier logistics in the market is to more sustainable and sensitive methods. So I think that what we have a responsibility to do, or Seb, is a big guy, what he has a responsibility to do is lead us to build a business that's powerful, that drives more of our competitors to move in this way. So we become the differential that benefits retail and benefits those urban areas as such that people wouldn't want to operate different models, and then it becomes a norm. I think legislation only gets you so far.
Hold on, I won't add anything to that.
Please.
Over there. Yep.
Alex.
Excuse me.
It's coming.
Don't come too fast. Oh shit, yeah.
Hello, Alex from Pangaea. I was just wondering, if you drill down to country, city level, are you seeing any specific trends in relation to sort of same hour, same day, next day deliveries? Are customers in Berlin compared to Paris driving certain delivery options?
I think it's a really good question. I can answer specifically for the UK and Paris right now when I think about the retail space. And I think, again, with the reference to pandemic, we have seen a demand for faster services, and we have seen a demand for more control. And where we've seen that the green credential is super important, Alex. Germany, I think, is a really interesting market where Stuart isn't right now. But my knowledge of the market says the locker element and fast delivery to locker and collection from locker has been hugely prevalent certainly in North Ireland for a really long time. I think it will be interesting to see how different models disrupt that in Berlin, but I think I think we know that consumers remain to be, even post-pandemic, bad to say in a recessive climate with huge inflation, right? But in comparison to 20 years ago, there's more disposable income for retail and there's less time to expend it. And I think that is more likely to drive the trends across Western Europe, where we have similar working conditions and similar economics, than actually any other behaviour locally. But I don't know whether Seb's got a slightly different view from his broader...
No, I think like convenience is the common factor, but what convenience means differs for different people, right? So like in Paris, people are happy to go to a grocery store and then get someone to walk their groceries home, and that's convenient for them. That wouldn't be convenient for me. Like I think it depends. Like convenience is there. What we need to do is define what convenience is, make sure we're hitting that, and then push the boundaries.
And have an agile view to convenience, because it will continue to evolve.
Cool.
I need to break in, sorry, because this is actually showing how a first session of today should be. So a big cheer for yourself and a big cheer for Stuart, and they are present at the booth. Yep.
Thank you,
Thank
Martin.
you.